Hello and welcome to episode 19 of our Pathfinder Ultimate Guide Series. First up, let's talk to Arsenal and buy the second half of the pair that we picked up from the dragon last time out. So again, accessories, and it should be right there. With this in tow, we will now have 2 allies with those 2 bonuses, plus 2 to circumstance on attack and 2 to AC. As for the second half, it's gonna go on Arueshalae, and it's also on land. So both of them will now have a plus 2 circumstance to attack and AC if they're within 10 feet of each other. Alternatively, I could put it on, say, Ivu and myself, but currently I have the Epic Songs Amulet, which gives me an additional 6 rounds of my bardic performances. In between episodes, I also looked at some meta magic for Nenio here, actually also for Ember, but we'll get around to that. Since we leveled her up to level 11, we have level 6 spells, meaning we can finally put on Persistent Spell on Phantasmal Killer, meaning that they have to fail, or succeed rather, 2 checks of this for it to proc. And even if they save, they will still take 3d6 points of damage, but if they fail either one of those checks, they will outright die. Now my next goal is to heighten it as much as possible by increasing through feats and heighten in general. You might wonder why I have 2 of them. This one has persistent and this one only has heightened, so this one has 27 AC, but it's only one time, and this one has 25, but it's twice. They can be used interchangeably, but I prefer, at least for now, going with the double up option. I've also gotten Hungry Pit up to heightened, so we can potentially look into using that every now and then. As for Ember, I've only heightened her Burning Axe, Hideous Laughter, and her fire spells in general, to various levels. To remind you of what we're doing, we're currently sending Setsuna down to face off against this army to get the Broken Phylactery here. Afterwards, he's probably gonna go up this way again, and then towards this demon army, or demon castle. Now that we have done Greyboar's quest and the storyteller's back, let's kick him off immediately and bring back in Nenio. Minus a few companion quests here and there and some optional other bosses and so on, this will largely be my party composition throughout the majority of the game, but options like Darren for a healer, Camellia for a buffer of some kind, Ember for a nuker of some kind as well, these 2 for frontline, and Greyboar is just a bench warmer. So we'll bring these into the field and let's see what we can do. Looking at our quests and our general progression of the game so far, I might briefly pop over to the Ashbury Hamlet to deal with that optional encounter over there, before heading back, or over rather, to Green Gates, and ultimately down to the Molten Scar. First up, let's head to the Ashbury Hamlet. We need to rest, as you can see with the fatigue. Alternatively, we could use Lay on Hands, which I might just do. So if we look at our status, it's only these 5 that has fatigue. So with Sela we can lay on hands others on all of these 5. And for Sela herself, I'll normally on hands. This area can be quite tough as we are going to be facing off against a couple of specters which are incorporeal. One of them is a very tough cookie. He's always gonna use some sort of pit that'll do a lot of damage. So I recommend buffing up with, I'd say, normal, or perhaps even your important, depends on how early/late you come here. Since I am level 11, this area will not pose as much of a threat as it will as early as you can get here, which is level 7. So I think I'll go in slightly normally buffed, which is barely anything. This cap here is also one of the only reasons it's actually useful. It's a 2 bonus to undead, which fortunately the enemies are. I would highly recommend using Death Ward if you don't have them already, thus while waiting until at least, I believe, level 7 for normal Death Ward, which is a level 4 spell, or simply using Scrolls is also another option. Death Ward here is useful because these guys will target drain and levels, which we want to avoid. Here we have our major dude. He's undead, so the bonus from the cap will work here. He has 41 AC, 38 flat-footed, 27 touch. It's immune to prone, so the reflex doesn't really matter too much. It has high will save, so Nenio's persistent thing might have some trouble. It's also immune to death here, and it's immune to both emotion and fear, which Phantasmal Killer is. So we can't Phantasmal Killer this dude. He has Destruction, which is 10 points of damage per caster level, and his caster level is probably 16. He's worth quite a good chunk of experience. So again, Death Ward, potentially freedom of movement to avoid the pits and stuff like that, and otherwise buff up as you normally would, and then you should be fine. If you manage to defeat him, this knowledge world check here is about 400 experience. In here you should be able to trigger a perception. That's the other house. Whoops. There should be a perception check in here somewhere, or is it just normal? It is just normal. And you'll find a decent longsword, the lustrous, or greatsword rather, the lustrous blade. It's mithril and it has a 15 DC, which is at this point not very high, but if you were to get here at level 7, 8 or 9, the DC of 15 is okay. And they would become blinded for a round. You could pop in a few skeletons which are immune to the drains and stuff that the specters also have, since he will be accompanied by 3 or 4 specters depending on your difficulty level. We are going to fight off against this phylactery location here now. If you come here with a level 7 general with fireball like Setsuna, this shouldn't be a bad fight. You can also use cure wounds on them since they are undead. As you can see, they'll deal a decent chunk of damage. And again, the rules of targeting the archers and in general the skeletons is reapplied here. So archers focused by these champions probably is what I would have gone for. And it was quite an easy fight. We want to turn this into the ring form, which I will showcase to you at some point. Whether that be this episode or the next 2 ones shall remain to be seen. And the good part about scribing scrolls with metamagic is that you can indeed scribe the better scrolls with heightened and so on, so you have those in your pockets. Essentially, you can use your metamagic scrolls for free as well. Back now at Dresden, we will head toward the Greek gates and then head towards the Molten Scar. This should be either the... If you head west and you are not met by a skeleton merchant, you are almost certain that one of these encounters will be with Woljif. If you have already done that encounter by heading west initially, this encounter should be actually re-meeting Woljif once more. So we'll quickly mount our folks and we should be fine. Warning, there are a few traps here, but they can just be disarmed for no problem-ish here.
I sense something.
And if you're met by these clerics and cultists in general, you are certain that it is the second meeting with Woljif. And once you have gone through his dialogue, you can start a quest, which is of course his companion quest extended version, and you get the option to re-recruit him back into your party. So make sure before you click the end dialogue, just before this appears, that if you don't already have the experience trick turned off, make sure to turn it off. That way Woljif immediately pops up to your current level and experience. I'm just gonna send him back to Dresden by clicking accept here. If you succeed a perception check over here by the cart, you will find a little goodie with some gold, and that's pretty much it. These scrolls are except the Word of Chaos. Let's continue down to Green Gates. I'd recommend sending your second army up towards the north, as you can see they are rather low level, and the experience here should be enough to put you up to a decent enough level with your second army. This is Arueshalae's quest, so if you don't have her in your party at this time, you will find her here. And if you don't have her in the party and recruited her at Dresden like I did, you can go into the group manager which will take a bit of time, essentially the time it took to travel from here to there, and then you can pick Arueshalae up in your party without going back and forth. You might see that I've quote-unquote lost the item Great Axe of Rovagug, which we've talked about, but that essentially just means I click the option to enchant it. There's a hidden perception check in the how did you know the hag would be here, and the latter part here, but you have a sneaking suspicion that the succubus has not told you the full story. You might want to keep that in mind. In this location there's also a bell that we want to disable. It won't benefit the fight too much, but it will net us some extra experience and some nice loot. This area will have plenty of demons, so I recommend buffing at least normal, maybe even important for the penultimate fight, which I will showcase to you. There's a little Aradan's Wrath item here. This changes the AC bonus it grants from the Smite Evil from Deflection to Sacred, meaning you can have this from Sacred and a Ring of Protection, and it'll still stack the AC since it's different abilities now. Additionally, it also deals an additional 1d4 divine damage, which divine damage is very nice. It'll be under your usable tabs, and I recommend slotting it on Seela as early as you can. So I'll just pop it on her, and to enable it, you click her picture, her thingy, and you just simply click it like so. Actually, it seems like it doesn't need to be enabled or activated, it's just active. That means whenever we use our Smite Evil, it won't. It will both give us DC or AC from the Smite Evil ability and also the deflection as normal. Make sure to loot this little vase back here. There's a cold iron in there, which is a artifact restoring material. There's also a little helmet in here. It only grants a bonus to initiative, but it's pretty decent on your archers or your casters. In here is the Bell of Mercy Clapper, the item that's needed to destroy the bell. You might want to go into stealth here as there's a fight up here to the right. And to disable this trap here with your disarmor, they might have to go somewhat close to where the fight triggers. Before you go over here though, where the penultimate fight awaits, I recommend turning back and going up to the belfry here, since we just picked up the item, to interact with the bell up there. You'll also find some dinosaur bones and a magic flail. It's actually radiant, and it has decent attack bonus towards the first attack on a new demon. It's pretty nice if you are using flails. These boots are always nice because it's a permanent effect of the freedom of movement, meaning you can spare a spell slot whenever you need to cast it on your party members. Let's interact with this bell then. We now get Good Hope for free, and they are also slightly debuffed when you move into the fight. With all of that covered though, we can move on and we can face off against the fights here. There's one more minion fight and then the penultimate fight for Arueshalae's quest. This fight is against a retriever, and I believe they do have a paralyzing gaze like the one back in the Leopard Smile, so do be careful about your main character. Of course, you only need to be careful if you didn't pick the Close to the Heavens mythic path initially, since by now you would be immune to the petrification status ability. With all of these demons being done, as you can see there's a lot of different variety, and this guy here casts haste, so do be careful about that. If you have slow, it'll be nice to dispel that haste on them, so do keep that in mind. Here we have her then. On hard, she has 33 AC and 19 touch, rather weak. Poor will save, so a persistent phantasmal killer might be able to do it, although she is slightly immune to death, though not from the phantasmal killer effect. Since this is not as you can see here, if I make it bigger, it's mind affecting, fear, emotion, and negative emotion. Note that it does not say that it's a death spell. So even though this person or this hag is immune to the death thingy from death spells, it's not immune to Phantasmal Killer. And 17 to will, when this here is 25 twice, there's a decent chance that it'll proc, if nothing else. Though Her stats are quite You should be careful about her to hit, but other than that, she is quite squishy in general. I'm gonna give her a Phantasmal Killer Persistent and see if that triggers. Unfortunately, I failed to overcome the spell resistance because I rolled rather poorly, but that's alright. Feel free to read this quest at your own behest, since this guide won't cover the quests in depth, but only the actual fights and how to deal with them. If you click the top option, you and I need to have a very serious chat after she deals with the hag. You'll get a nice chunk of experience. And another nice chunk of experience comes a bit later in this little segment here, upon immediately triggering this, basically. And if you click the top option, thank you for the map, I appreciate your help. The Ivory Sanctum has been revealed. You might want to keep that location in mind. But do not go to it before you've done everything else, basically. And of course, if you want the best endings for Arueshalae, you can click one of the two options here. The good option is of course the better one. And another 1400 experience. Make sure though that after the little thingy that you go back and actually loot the hag, as on her you will find an amulet and a quarterstaff. The quarterstaff is a +4, rather high at this point in the game. And if you are Blood Rager and under the Blood Rage effect, you gain fast healing 5 while this is activated. Anyways, under the Blood Rage, of course. Before you head out though, there's a hidden perception check here with some loot in it. And there's also a tower up here with some more loot. Not only is there a build of physical perfection +2, which is +2 to all of your physical stats, strength, dex and constitution. You can also reinvigorate the land, though I will do some research if that is only doable if you're an Asata. And finally, in this little chest here, there's a special little S-Stock if you're using those. It has decently higher crit since it's keen, and on a crit it debuffs the enemies. Plus it has multiple applications. No, it doesn't stack anyway, that's my bad. My next stop will be the Molten Scar down here, which is also the area where we have to scout for Anivia. It is also linked to an achievement. This Spell of Mercy also grants all of your units 1 AC against demon attacks. Not that impressive since it's only for your units in the Crusade, but an AC is an AC, I guess. Also make sure you have some of these decrees online as much as you can. Unfortunately, it seems like Ivo died in that exchange with the hag, but he isn't really needed for this area. This cave here will have a lot of rocks, and they can of course stun, have bliss balls, and do a lot of mirror image shenanigans. Once you're down here, you might see that this guy has a unique little name. This is effectively your third and final person you want to save for the achievement. I'll leave it on screen now. And if you save him, the Travel in the Leper Smile, and the guy all the way back in the Tower of Estrad throughout the entirety of the game, you will get the achievement. Any of the bluff or the intimidate checks will help you. And it would appear that I have forgotten about some halflings that will help us down here if you're following the Asata Mythic path. Make sure to info this page smeared with blood and soot, as the knowledge won't pop up down here, but it'll help you in a future quest. There's a dude in here that has both a magic essence and some nice gloves on him. This is basically a increase to your range attacks with touch. So this will be good on either Nenio or Ember, mostly Ember of course. The rock himself has some garbage loot, a amulet and ring of protection +1. Before you reinvigorate the land, as an Asada anyway, you might see a few people, including Jan Aldori all the way back from the marketplace in Act 1. Here is an option if you click the guy in the rightmost cage for Aeon and demons. And if you save them by the go to my camp, if the clerics don't cure you, they will at least take care of you. You can get a few little special units for the crusade. And that is basically it. These will turn them into mongrels and these will turn them into clerics. I prefer the clerics. Let's talk to Jan Aldori and you can decide her fate. I won't go into details about that. I will reinvigorate the land for the Asata. Asata basically makes the areas that has been filled with corruption into little green zones again. And that is pretty much it for the Molten Scar location. Periodically returning to Dresden, both for the events that you might have done and just to rest, is a good idea. At some point, Velg here will come up and reveal the location of Blackwater, a very notorious location for the Pathfinder community, but one that I will showcase how to effectively trivialize most of the fights and make your time in there much easier. Let's just say thank you, I'll put this information to good use. Whenever you get around to using your military council, you can choose your fate for the footmen, and all footmen are promoted to either one of these different things. For your choices, I would recommend either the champions here, the shield bearers here, or something as silly as the houndmasters, since they can spawn in a little extra unit. But for the sake of this guide, I think I'm gonna go for the shield bearers, as my main damage won't come from my infantry, but more from my archers and Setsuna, or my generals in general. Let's talk to Erebeth about our time in the Molten Scar. That'll net us 700 experience and complete the quest. In the little event segment, Ulbrich came to me again, and this is his second step of his companion quest. Feel free to do it if you have the DLC, otherwise simply forget about it for now, since it's not a must-do. I think our next target will be Wintersun, quite the interesting area with lots of things to do and lots of quests to complete. Alright, once at Wintersun you will have two different little skill checks, one of each side, and some small lootables in the surrounding area. Here you'll initially meet some Smilodons looking at a horse, and a few bear cubs, which you can theoretically kill if you're a monster, otherwise you could just examine the mother. Now your first friendly annoyance right here is a blighted tree ant with 240 HP, decent AC but weak to touch, good ant slashing, and just slashing in general bypasses both of them. Can be, well, he's immune to mind affecting, so he can't be phantasmal killed, but otherwise some low-ish attacks. Do you see these little stones right here? There are 7 of these on the map Wintersun. A few of them are in caves, so you can't find all of them out in the open, like this one anyway. Initially, first click it, and a check will appear, or this is just the introduction to it anyway. So that young years may heed old wisdom, we hide it scattered among many caches. Youth enjoys guessing and seeking, basically alluding to you finding these standing stones around this map, of which there are 7, and some of them are in caves. Once you waltz a little bit further ahead, I seem to have forgotten about this existing, you will complete the quest to find the Crusaders, and as you can see, they've been shish kebabbed, if you will. To the left you might notice a little path. Here you want to keep this little stone heart in mind, otherwise called a heart stone, as once you have interacted with all of the standing stones in this Wintersun location, you want to come back here for one of the relics, or the relic and the loot. And the relic material is arguably one of the best boots in the game for people like Lan, Arueshalae, and anyone else that relies on dexterity. Unfortunately, even though you can get the material here at Act 3, you cannot get the actual completed relic, storyteller relic, before Act 4, since the restoration required demands some Act 4 materials. Right here we have another plant with 300 HP, 43 AC, 34 flat-footed, so use your Dirge of Doom if you have a bard like I do. Good, a line which is bypassable by the Covenant of the Inheritor, and quite high to hits with 4 attacks a turn on hard. Other than his crazy stats, he's not really that impressive, though he will net us a nice chunk of experience. For the most part, this AC is easily bypassable, since for me I am using Dirge of Doom when I see 40 plus AC, meaning they become shaken and there's no save for it. So I will mostly hit this number right here, which is much easier to hit with buffs. Alternatively, use spellcasting. And he's not actually immune to prone, so he can be knocked on his arse with grease or whatever else. But if you think he was alone, you'd be quite mistaken. As you can see, there's 3 of them. These guys back here are actually quite tough, since these walls will trip you, but overall they should be easier than the trees. And here is one of the standing stones I was talking about, one of 7. The Druid Outcast has a headband of wisdom +2, but otherwise it is mostly garbage. Do though loot the potions and the sellables, as they are worth a decent penny. You might want to save when interacting with these, as you can fail them, and failing them is rather annoying, so do save here and there. Otherwise buff up with the House of Vespertilio item. It is mostly Knowledge World. Now that I think about it, they may actually all be Knowledge World. Back here there is a decent studded leather for your light armored units. It's a +6 armor with 3 inlaid unbypassable damage reduction, but that's about it. For example, since this is only the damage reduction to piercing, this is damage reduction to everything, so I'll put that on Arueshalae. If you move down here, you on the map here to the left here, top left, you will be met with the Deep-Rooted Derangement quest to find the lair and defeat the beast. Also, if you have Darren, if you move up here, there should be a waterfall, of which there will be a small little cutscene after defeating these Smilodons here. You'll face off against plenty of beasts here, around 10 or so Smilodons and boars and bears, and up here you'll find another standing stone. If you have an Eneo, or just a bard like I do, these standing stones shouldn't pose much of a challenge for you. So this one here marks the 2nd stone. Let's go inside the cave and see about this beast then, shall we? Make sure you pick up this letter here, as it will progress the Deep-Rooted Derangement quest. Let's go further into the cave and see if we can figure out what's happening. There's a little pouch here with a Cloak of Resistance +4, quite nice pickup. Remember to equip your pets with any Cloaks of Resistance +1 and so on. Let's interact with this campfire here. And the hidden treasure chest provides us with a couple interesting scrolls of 13 and both 13 caster level, so level 6, level 7 scroll wizard thingies. And more importantly, a veteran's marksman braces, and if a ranged weapon lands on someone that is prone, stunned or staggered, they must pass a fortitude saving throw of 23, or it's prolonged by an additional round. It's alright to have on land since Rex gets people prone with his bites. Ultimately, you can decide Soana's fate. She's a little druid that uses some rituals to bring back life into either dead or dying animals. I'm just gonna leave her in peace. And once you head outside the cave again, you should meet with the bear that they've been talking about, or alluding to anyway. And indeed, here he is. He isn't that intimidating or much of a threat, but afterwards you can decide what to do with him. We will look him in the eyes. Also, let's examine him. And throughout the entire dialogue, you can come to know that that he's in pain. You can either kill him, or show mercy to it. I think for something different, I'm gonna show mercy to him. We gain a decent chunk of experience, and let's return to the cave and talk to the shaman once more. And as you can see, he actually heals again because he has fast healing. And let's try and save the poor bear, and let's free him as well. Ultimately, you gain another 1200 experience, and both the shaman and the bear should be fine. You can choose to kill either or even both, but the consequences of this quest is ultimately not that important. With 2 standing stones complete and that quest complete again, let's resume our progression of this area. Let's head up here to the left where we initially fought those tree ants. We'll find more of them here, and a little stone bridge where you'll have another large fight, including a very tough tree ant that's even tougher than what we've been facing. And up here a location you might want to keep in mind, as we want to return to it. Up here there is an quote-unquote insane half-elf, and at some point she will be relevant for a quest. I recommend that you do not kill her, and just leave her be. Here's the big fella. He has regeneration 20 that is interrupted by fire, so you want to use fire spells to interrupt it. Quite a decent chunk of experience or HP, worthy of a lot of experience rather. And again, to remove his regeneration, you must use fire, otherwise he will continuously just regenerate, even if he's put down to 0 and below. He has quite high damage reduction, 20, though one of them can be removed by good and slashing, and the other one is slashing. If you just use slashing, you'll be fine. Quite high to hit rates, and a lot of damage as well. He has the Tainted Sap, like all treants have in this area, feel free to read it, and also Demon Plague on hit. And once you've dealt with some of the babaos, even more will spawn. As you can see, quite a bloody battle, but a few channel positive energy and everything is fine again. You might also be able to see that I heal because of the Sword of Valor here, giving me fast healing equal to twice my mythic rank. But to speed up the process, a wee bit of a channel positive and we'll be fine. On the big fella you will find a bloodstone, which is just trash, and a amulet of mighty fist +2, and the babaos have the usual long spears. He was guarding another standing stone, so that makes number 3. If you do not want to watch this guide entirely, I recommend you just look up the locations of these stones. To the left here, there's a stranger, which will go back to the Heart of Mystery. You might be able to see there's a babao in here among some peasants. Something you might want to keep in mind if you want to read the entirety of this area's questline and plot. It's quite intriguing for a first time read. Here in the middle there's the 4th standing stone, and before you loot this skeleton you might be warned that upon looting it a spectre will appear, and an additional 6 will appear, meaning 7 spectres in total, and upon killing all of them you will be granted with 10,000 experience or so, but do be warned, the spectres are quite hard and they are mixed together with other enemies, so you might want to skip this momentarily, return to it, and swipe the entire area once more, so the spectres are isolated. Here is another cave that you might want to enter, as there's another thing inside there. Here we are, it is inside a cave, and you might want to keep it in mind as 1, there's a standing stone in here, and 2, it's related to finding Morwig, the apprentice of CR. And indeed, here he is. 210 experience upon initially talking to him, a perception check to see that he is pale and sweating, and finally just say I'll kill the demon. To the left here there's the standing stone number 5, and oh what's that? It is indeed some eerie music, meaning a tough opponent is ahead. This here is the cookie we need to crack, 400 HP, 1300 experience worth, 46 AC, easily bypassable with flat-footed and touch, high saves across the board, decent spell resistance, bypassable damage reduction with the Covenant, weak, basically no immunities other than poison and electricity, and here's the kicker, 4 attacks with decent hits, Cloud Kill, which can do constitution damage each round, Innovation, which is the temporary negative levels, so Death Ward is nice here. Also potentially Life Bubble to avoid this right here. The classic Drone, which is a stun/confusion. And that is about it. He also has Directly Poison on hit. In short, Death Ward, Life Bubble, and potentially Unbreakable Heart will make this fight much more easier. Also buff up your tanks with the normal spells, mage armor, shield, and so on. Otherwise, you should be fine. Alternatively, a guarded hearth here will be fine, but do be warned, you will soon face off against Morwig, as he will go a bit insane. More about that in a moment. On the dude, he has a Amulet of Mighty Fists 1, not very impressive. Back here there is a special little shirt, the Elemental Imbuement, which is good for doing elemental damage, so if you are a caster that focuses on that, keep that in mind. Let's go to the Shrine of Gorum here. 2 enter, 1 leaves. That is the law of the Bloody Temple. Rejoice, Gorum, when our blood runs over the stones. Keep that 2 enter, 1 leaves in mind, as of course, Morwig, will most likely want to duel you. He's become a big lad here, as you can see. The Fang of Malice, a decent greatsword right here for your greatsword uses. 210 experience. No matter what you say, he will just say Gorum, and of course a fight will ensue. He has 33 AC, decent fortitude saves, low reflex. The adamantine part is annoying since we can't bypass that really. 400 HP, though he's not immune to Phantasmal Killer, so you could try your luck since he has 19 will saves. Quite high to hits with 40, 35, 30 and 25, but at this point Seela and her horse should be around 50, and with Protective Luck you should be fine. Also, if you can of course get the Phantasmal Killer off online, that will immediately kill him, since he's not immune to the emotion and fear and stuff like that. We gain the Morwig's Talisman and 210 additional experience. We can ensure him that he made the demons pay like a true warrior and have him rest in peace. He was a good lad, but unfortunately he met his match. On him you find the Fang of Malice greatsword that he was using, quite good since it has Furyborn, and it removes the -2 penalty when you're under raging. So if you're a barbarian using greatswords, this is an exceptionally good weapon, since Furyborn will increase up to +5. He also has a full plate +2 with 11 AC on it, belt of giant strength +2, amulet of armor +2, and a ring of protection +2. Overall decent gear. And here you have the monster casserole recipe, and also Arving's notes. Feel free to read that at your own behest. And you might remember that if you interact with this, you can remove your corruption. There's also a perception check of about 20 or so here. And if you pass it, there's a belt of mighty constitution +4, and some gold and valuables. In here there's a tower shield, Warden of Darkness. It's alright, though its damage reduction to good is absolutely worthless. Actually, this is a terrible shield. Never mind, since we've just hit level 12 and I've been recording for 40 minutes, I think I'll split up this Winter Sun and keep it in another part after I do my level ups. So, for Draken, it's quite simple. We get Soothing Performance, which is basically a heal that removes Fatigued, Sickened and Shaken, quite nice. We want to increase Strength, so it's a equal score, meaning we gain another melee attack and stuff like that, and our skill points look a little something like this. This will all become better when we select all skilled for our superpower. For spells, Dimension Door will come in handy for the Act 4 of the game, as there will be a lot of areas that'll only be reachable by that spell. We've already seen that in the Goblin Encampment from the free DLC that we covered a lot of episodes ago. Seela gets another Mercy, and for Seela we want to increase Charisma, since that is what Mark of Justice and Smite Evil focuses on, so this becomes a +5 instead of a +4. Quite a nice bonus. Skills, straightforward. Mercy, at this point you could go into something like Cursed, or something like Exhausted, Paralyzed, Shaken, Sickened and Staggered, or Stunned. There are a lot of good options. I'm gonna go for Cursed in case I get cursed. My Lay on Hands can remove that as a remove curse ability. I also gain a damage reduction of 5 that is unbypassable. For Lan, he finally gets Quarry like Arueshalae did, and also Fiendish Glory, an additional +2 attack bonus. It's only he can forgo the attack bonus and get good align, but since we have the Covenant of the Inheritor, this is less useful. Here the options are kinda up to you. You could go Dex, you could go Strength. I'm gonna go for Dex. You could also round up Wisdom, but you can also do that at level 20 after you have gone Dexterity 22 or Strength 22, and then round up Wisdom to 18, or any of these other odd stats. It's really up to you. Skills are straightforward. For Social, we want to increase Wisdom since that's what everything focuses on for him. And skills are just straightforward. For Arueshalae, let's get some Strength, so it's rounded out. Skills look a little something like this, and that's it. Nenio is probably the only interesting thing here. We can go up to Lawmaster, increase Intelligence of course, get all our skills, blam blam blamo, and let's get some Perception as well, so she can start noticing thing, or yep, not persuasion, perception. Since we are running Social, we don't need to pick up Chains of Light, and we can instead focus on Bold Strength and Cat's Grace, but we have Cat's Grace on Social as well, so we can go for a nice Bold Strength mass, and potentially even a Bear's Endurance. I already have Mind Fog, don't I? That's a 5th level spell, I can check here. I don't. That probably means I should pick up Mind Fog instead. I'm gonna get Bold Strength and Mind Fog. This reduced the will saves by -10. And of course the illusion spells focus on will saving, most of them anyway. Actually all of them now that I think about it. So this is just a net increase to her effectiveness. We also gain the Law, which is at 2nd level, a Law Master adds half his level to all Law and Knowledge skill checks, meaning an additional +6 to all of this stuff. Though for now it's only a +1 since we are level 2 in Law Master. So we're looking at +30s, +23s, 5s, 17s, quite good overall. And if you think that your little dragon friend is not scaling with you, don't worry, he will scale with you when you're doing your mythic quests. Bismuth is now level 8, so he gains another Bab here. As for your defensive pet, you can either round up Dexterity for another AC, or another Reflex rather, and another Initiative, or you could round up Con for more HP, an additional 12 in effect, or get more strength. I'm gonna go for 28 strength and probably 18 con, or maybe even 20 dex. I'll see what I round up at that time. Same goes for my offensive pets. 29 strength. Lizzie hits level 9 since she's a couple of levels behind, and for that we'll get weapon focus and bite for her. With that, we've covered our level ups and we are ready to call an episode here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye for now.